The global electric vehicle industry is undergoing a seismic shift, and at the center of it all stands Tesla, the undisputed pioneer of modern EV innovation. But as the world transitions from internal combustion engines to cleaner, more sustainable alternatives, a new challenge is emerging, not from rival automakers, but from governments. International markets are rapidly changing the rules of the game, tightening regulations, restructuring subsidies, and demanding deeper integration with domestic economies. For Tesla, this isn't just a regulatory nuisance, it's a complex geopolitical dance that threatens its global dominance. What's playing out now is more than just a corporate saga. It's a test of how far a private company can push against national interests, supply chain sovereignty, and environmental imperatives. Let's zoom out first and consider the global stage. For more than a decade, Tesla has been the poster child of electric mobility. Its sleek cars, cutting-edge battery technology, and charismatic CEO have redefined consumer expectations around electric vehicles. Tesla helped make EVs cool, fast, and desirable, not just eco-friendly alternatives. But what happens when a company that built its brand on disrupting the status quo now finds itself caught in the crosshairs of governments trying to reassert control over their industrial policies? In Europe, the tides have turned swiftly. The European Union, once a welcoming market for Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y, is now prioritizing local production and circular supply chains. The EU's Fit for 55 package and its carbon border adjustment mechanism have begun to impose new costs on companies with transcontinental supply chains. This is part of a broader push to ensure that green industries create European jobs, source European materials, and contribute to the continent's long-term industrial resilience. Tesla's Gigafactory Berlin was in part a response to this pressure, but even that may not be enough. New EU regulations emphasize battery origin requirements, requiring a minimum percentage of critical materials to be sourced from countries with free trade agreements with the EU. For Tesla, which has relied heavily on suppliers in China for battery cells and key raw materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, this presents a dilemma. If the rules get stricter, Tesla could be forced to either relocate parts of its supply chain or pay hefty tariffs, undercutting its price competitiveness in one of its key markets. And with Europe pushing hard to incubate domestic champions like Volkswagen and Renault, the environment is becoming less accommodating to foreign automakers, even the ones at the cutting edge of the EV revolution. Then there's China, the world's largest EV market, and a country with a uniquely complicated relationship with Tesla. China initially rolled out the red carpet for Tesla, offering incentives and allowing it to become the first foreign carmaker to operate a wholly owned factory without a joint venture partner. The Shanghai Gigafactory was a coup for Tesla and a demonstration of China's commitment to electrification. For a while, everything looked perfect: booming sales, local supply chains, and growing brand loyalty. But that rosy picture is beginning to fray. In 2024, the Chinese government began scaling back subsidies for foreign EV manufacturers and pivoted its support more aggressively toward domestic players like BYD, NIO, and Xpeng. Tesla, while still a major player in China, is increasingly being viewed through the lens of geopolitical rivalry. As US-China tensions escalate over trade, technology, and security, Tesla is walking a tightrope. Any misstep, whether it's perceived data mismanagement, poor labor practices, or supply chain vulnerabilities, could trigger regulatory backlash. The Chinese government has already expressed concerns over data collection by Tesla's vehicles, leading to restrictions on their use by state employees and in sensitive areas. China is also exerting more influence over the upstream supply chain. As the dominant force in refining and processing rare earth elements and EV battery minerals, Beijing has begun tightening export controls on critical materials like graphite, gallium, and germanium. This is a direct challenge to companies like Tesla, which depend on stable, affordable access to these inputs. If the supply tap is restricted, either as a retaliatory measure in the US-China tech war, or as a strategic realignment, Tesla may find itself scrambling for alternative sources at a time when demand for EVs is already plateauing in key markets. Meanwhile, the United States is rewriting its own rulebook for the EV industry. The Inflation Reduction Act, passed in 2022, offers substantial tax credits for EV purchases, but only for vehicles that meet stringent sourcing and assembly requirements. To qualify for the full $7,500 credit, a vehicle must be assembled in North America and source a significant portion of its battery materials from either the US or countries with which it has free trade agreements. This provision is aimed squarely at reducing dependence on China, and it has forced Tesla to recalibrate its supply chain strategy. In response, Tesla has accelerated plans to expand domestic battery production through its Gigafactory in Texas and partnerships with North American suppliers. But even with these adjustments, achieving full compliance is no small feat. Many of the most cost-effective suppliers remain located in Asia, and shifting away from them could increase production costs, affecting Tesla's ability to price competitively, especially as legacy automakers ramp up their own EV offerings with similar features and better financing options. Furthermore, the regulatory pressure doesn't stop at supply chains. Safety standards, software regulations, and emissions compliance rules vary widely from country to country, forcing Tesla to constantly adapt its technology and manufacturing protocols. For example, Tesla's full self-driving software has faced scrutiny in both Europe and China, where regulators are far more conservative about deploying autonomous features. This means that the very tech that differentiates Tesla in the US market often becomes a regulatory liability overseas. On top of that, countries like India, Brazil, and Indonesia, large, growing markets with massive potential, are making it increasingly clear that they want EVs manufactured locally. Tesla's negotiations with India have repeatedly stalled over New Delhi's insistence on local production and the use of Indian-made components. While Tesla recently secured a foothold in India through a new production plan in Gujarat, it's still a long road to full integration, especially given the Indian government's protectionist tendencies. Brazil and Indonesia have similar aspirations. They don't just want to import Teslas, they want Tesla to invest, create jobs, and help build domestic supply chains. For Tesla, that means more capital investment, more time spent navigating red tape, and more exposure to volatile political and economic conditions. The question becomes, how scalable is Tesla's global strategy if each new market demands a custom approach tailored to local regulatory and industrial policy? All of this paints a challenging picture, but it's not entirely bleak. Tesla still holds enormous brand power and technological leadership. Its battery management systems, software stack, and vertical integration give it a leg up in many areas. And in some ways, the regulatory wave could even play to Tesla's strengths. As rules get more complex and burdensome, smaller players and new entrants may struggle to keep up. Tesla, with its deep pockets and experience navigating multiple jurisdictions, might be one of the few companies capable of thriving in such a fragmented regulatory landscape. However, the broader trend is clear. Tesla is no longer just a tech disruptor. It's now a multinational corporation operating in an era where governments are reclaiming control over their industrial destinies. The laissez-faire globalization of the 2000s is being replaced by economic nationalism, strategic decoupling, and environmental statecraft. And for a company like Tesla, that means the road ahead is no longer defined just by innovation and consumer demand, but by its ability to adapt to a world where politics and power shape the rules of commerce. So where does that leave us? In many ways, Tesla's regulatory challenges are a microcosm of a larger shift in global economics. As climate change accelerates and energy transitions become urgent, countries are no longer content to let market forces alone dictate outcomes. They want to ensure that the green economy also delivers geopolitical resilience, domestic employment, and technological sovereignty. Tesla, with its global ambitions and American DNA, sits at the crossroads of these competing demands. The next few years will be pivotal. Can Tesla localize without compromising its innovation edge? Can it meet divergent regulatory standards without ballooning costs? And can it remain a truly global company in an increasingly fragmented world? These are not just questions for Elon Musk and his team, they are questions that will shape the future of the EV industry as a whole. Because ultimately, Tesla's struggle isn't just about EVs, it's about navigating a new era where national interests come first, and private innovation must bow to public policy. And in that world, even the most disruptive company of our time will have to play by the rules, or risk being pushed to the sidelines in the very revolution it helped spark.